Now, to our exclusive interview with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Mr. President, thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Just a few kilometers from the front lines, we've been hearing artillery volleys back and forth all morning. And, you know, we sat here and thought 2 years. You know, in the first days when Russia invaded, many experts thought Kyiv was going to go down in 2 weeks. Here we are 2 years sitting right near the front lines. As you make an effort to get support around the world, where do you see this war right now?
Thank you so much, Bret. First of all, thank you, your team, that you came here. It's very important for me, like I said before we started, that's important for me, the United States, to see different war in the capital and here closer to front line. So, first of all, we are here. And it's very important because of the first days when Russia said that they will occupy us, we've been in the capital and their troops and soldiers been around, and a lot of our territories, houses been occupied. Now we are here, we are fighting 2 years ago. Half of those territory we deoccupied it. And of course, first of all, this resilience and strongness of our warriors, heroes, and our people, and of course, support. Big military support, political support of our partners, United States and EU partners. Now, I think, challenging period, another part, another page of the war.
You said you recaptured 55% of the captured territory, but Russia's still controlling 20% on these lines here, and it hasn't moved that much in the past year. So is it a stalemate?
First of all, it's not a stalemate. Indeed, it's very complicated in the East. There's a lack of certain weapons. They do have air superiority, and they have superiority in terms of manpower. This is the fact, truly. And therefore, there's the stagnation on this part of the front line. We understand that we need to deblock the air. We need our partners not to forget that it's not a war that is taking place over 1 day, but 2 years. Only the joint efforts would be able to kind of fight back Russians and to have Russians go to concessions.
Putin has to understand what all of us, what we have to do to push him. He has to understand that all the world needs peace. And all the world will not give him possibility to occupy Ukraine and to destroy it totally, what he really wanted and still wants.
Do you know roughly how many Ukrainians have died in the war so far?
We know about tens of thousands of people being killed or tens of thousands of children being deported. We know about this. And should we compare the number of soldiers killed? I would say the ratio is 1 to 5. So meaning 1 soldier killed in action equals to 5 Russian soldiers killed in action. So that's the approximate statistics.
So 1 to 5, meaning Russians, your defense ministry has it at more than 400,000 Russians. Is that possible?
Well, they've lost over 400,000.
Roughly, that's, let's just say, 500,000 casualties. For people in the U.S., that's the size of the city of Atlanta, Georgia. It's a lot of people.
Well, the only thing that they've succeeded, that's like over a period of 9 months, they've managed to control of the Avdiivka, and we need to understand the understanding of what that means to control. They've destroyed everything. So their strategy is to level everything to the ground and then to move on.
Like in Mariupol.
Well, nothing was left alive in Mariupol, but in here everything is leveled to the ground. We've lacked the weapons, we've lacked the shellings for the artillery.
You recently replaced your commanding general, General Zelenskyy. with a new commanding general. You also replaced many top commanders. So what does that mean? Does it mean you're looking for a shift, a new direction?
Well, the sort of reloading, rebooting in the management of the supreme commanders of the armed forces, this was something that we really needed. We're not talking about kind of the rebooting or reloading of the direction of our actions. We're just saying that some of the things were not changing over the recent period of time.
We have to be more quick. That means to lose all the bureaucracy what we have. Otherwise, we won't have any chance. To be smart technology, more technologically, and of course, quick. Time is money. In our case, it's not money, it's people lives.
You gave him the Hero of Ukraine medal. Do you think he'll remain a supporter of you and your government? Was there any part of that was a decision about maybe him being in opposition to you?
No,
well, that's his choice. He defended our nation, our country. That's why I presented him with the title of Hero of Ukraine. I'm very grateful to him.
You mentioned 2022. You stopped the Russians from advancing. You pushed them back. 2023. You defended successfully against an air campaign, the effort to take out electrical infrastructure. As you mentioned, you kept the grain open in the Black Sea. You went after the Russian Navy. You sunk 12 Russian naval ships, about 20% of their Black Sea fleet. Now, in 2024, though, you have seen kind of a stall on the ground. The counteroffensive was not successful. So as you look at 2024 and those goals, what do you see? You know, one, if you get the funding from the U.S., what does it look like? And the other way, if you don't, what does it look like?
Sometimes we forget one thing. We are speaking about counteroffensive. Of course, it's very important and it's moving you to peace closer, but to defend Ukraine against such big army like Russia, it's also big task, big challenge. You remember, and you remind today, that first days of the war, nobody in the world really believed that we will do it. And today, sometimes we are, and also in Congress, we are speaking, and some guys, we have good relations because we met a lot of times. They say, so when we will finish the war, when we will win, why so slowly, and etc. We have not forget people's lives. Without them, if we want to be very quick, but we will lose a lot of people without very concrete counteroffensive operation with details. Because these people, if we will lose these soldiers, we will lose everything. With any technology, we will lose everything. And that means that to defend, that the task number one, then to continue our successful story on the Black Sea, and we will do it. I will not now go deeply to details, but they will get some surprises. I mean, Russians. Yeah, that's very important. So South is very important. To defend East, where they have more than 200,000 soldiers, also very important to defend. And of course, we will prepare new counteroffensive, new operation. And of course, it's not, I'm not speaking that we will just stay. Of course, it depends on a lot of things. Yeah, some John shouted that. So will Ukrainians survive without Congress support? Of course, but not all of us. And if we understand this price, if the world is ready for this, okay, you will see it. But it's tragedy. It will be tragedy for all of us, not only for Ukraine, not only for Ukrainians, for all Europe. And you will see that they will go. Putin will never stay, will never stop. He will go through Eastern Europe because he wants it, because this is his goal.
I want to talk about Putin in a second. You are receiving sophisticated weapon systems now. The HIMARS, you got it, but you got it late. Patriot missile systems, M1 Abrams tanks, F-16s. There are some on Capitol Hill who are the other way. They believe that the administration was slow-walking this or was even reluctant to give this to you in time. I want to ask it this way. Had you gotten that material, those weapon systems, earlier, could the counteroffensive have been different?
Let's today not speak about the past. Nobody would have known what would happen if we've got something more or less. I know what is happening now, and now you're absolutely right. There's 2 years of this war, there's a new page of this war. Everyone understands now what is happening. There's additional Patriot systems, and millions of people will be returned, will be more protected. Additional air defense systems will allow us to take down Russian aircrafts. We're demonstrating that on the everyday basis. Our air defense forces are great. They're taking down enemy fighters, and it means that no bombardment, no shelling. So air defense, radio electronic warfare systems, this is what helps us. We've started the construction of a large amount of drones, but that's not enough, and the United States can help us a lot. Specifically, we need high-range weapons. We talked about this yesterday with congressmen. I talked about this with President Biden. Everyone understands ATACMS for 300 kilometers. That would help us a lot, because it's kind of an unfair war. Our soldiers are standing, and our artillery has a range of around 20 kilometers, because we don't have long-range weapons, and Russians have their artillery with a range of 40 kilometers. That's not fair. So we were saying that to our partners that we don't have this fairness, but if the partners have those systems, why not be providing them to Ukraine?
And we can hear some of that artillery in the background. You often have said that Ukrainian forces will never give up. They'll never give up the fight. But could you see a scenario where you allow Russia to maintain the 20%, the current lines where we are right now, but the 80% is a sovereign, secure country that is a member of EU and NATO?
That we are ready to give some territories and be in EU and NATO.
I'm asking the question.
Really? Yeah, I understood. Just to understand your question. First, nobody never gave us any such propositions. It's just for you, and I think for the audience, it's very important to understand.
You never had that opposite?
No, never. Only in media, only some voices, but no any officials proposition. That is the first. The second point, we know the history of our relations with Russia. You remember that we had frozen conflict when they occupied it from the very beginning, the Crimean part of Donbass. They did it. And we had some document, Minsk agreement, yes, in Normandy format, Germany, France, Russia, Ukraine. So we had this document. It was about exchange and ceasefire, everything what now a lot of countries say that we need it, we need ceasefire, we need to sit and have frozen document and war will end. No, the answer is not only about territories, it's about our security. He will never stop. Yes, until he will lose in this war, but he will lose. Not the world. His losing is just to be on his territory. We don't need any piece of his, any meter of the sovereign other country. That means that we don't want, just my signal is, don't want to repeat Minsk agreement, but on another part of our territory. No any new frozen conflicts. We don't believe in it, and I don't trust him.
As for the negotiation table, when we've prepared a document on the basis of the peace formula, on the basis of proposals of other countries, so we have this ready-made document And then we would be able to search for a diplomatic format, how to talk with the representatives of Russia, whatsoever they are. I believe if you don't have any steps coordinated with other partners, then you can't suggest anything to Putin because he will want nothing.
In the strong position, we found one very important diplomatic route. Diplomatic route, it's a document. When it will be ready, it doesn't matter where we will stay at this time. What I wanted to say, it doesn't matter if we will be strong in all the cases I said, and if we will have the document with the most big countries, important countries, decision makers in the world on our side, of course, we can find political negotiations.
On the other side of a quick break, more of my exclusive interview with President Zelenskyy and some behind the scenes with the president. It's after this. Welcome back from Kharkiv. We continue now with our exclusive coverage and interview with President Zelenskyy. What do you say to somebody in the U.S. who says, I'm worried about corruption. I don't want to give money to some corruption?
Everything is transferred now, so we voted anti-corruption reform. The EU gave us 7 reforms what we have to do, anti-corruption reforms, otherwise we couldn't get the candidate status. So for today, we finished about 1 month and a half ago, 2 months ago, so we finished with all these reforms. Everything is accepted with the people of EU on the level of presidents of Euro Commission and the level of Parliament, all of them.
So that's only just a month ago.
Yeah. So we finished with all of them. It was very important. The list of difficult anti-corruption reforms were difficult for us because during the war it's difficult to vote everything and provide by government after parliamentarians voting. So for today everything is finished, everything is clean, and all of them said that, all the leaders of EU, they all say yes.
So you're being transparent.
Even before all these reforms, a lot of times I said in the White House and in EU, I always said, we are very open, please.
I want to go back to Congress. You do have some critics of funding, vocal critics. Here's 3 senators.
We are not, as a Republican Party, behind unlimited, unaccounted for aid to Ukraine without any goals in mind, without any sense of where the money is going. We've got money without end. We've got enough money to pay for bureaucrats' salaries. We've got enough money to pay for Ukrainian government officials' pensions.
We are paying Ukrainian farmers, and yet we just punted the farm bill for American farmers next year.
Can you respond to all that?
We are thankful for this support, but mostly it's military one. We spend this money on military, so our pensioners don't need any guns first. So our soldiers need, and our people, and at least this is the security of Europe. And so mostly from this money, maybe somebody from senators, yes, you said, somebody, maybe they don't want to hear it, but it's truth, and they can ask your defending industry.
There is a study that says that 61% of the U.S. funds have been used for military operations in Ukraine, 31% to replenish DoD weapon stockpiles in the U.S. So with that said, if they came up with a plan that scaled back a little bit, but you got money, but maybe you didn't get the economic side, would you push for that?
We have some financial support for supporting infrastructure, for some bridges or for bomb shelters, etc. But at least this is also the same. When soldiers on the front line, just for such senators, just to understand, when soldiers on the front line, the question is money, not. The first question, they are defending and they have to think and focus only on the front line, on the enemy, because they are defending all other civilians. And they don't have any time to think what's going on with their children, their wives, and their relatives, mothers and fathers. They have to be also in secure zone. Bomb shelters for schools, bomb shelters for hospitals. What is it? This is for pensioners or for whom? This all of us in the front. soldiers in the front line. So all these, all your support, what you give, this financial part that you said, yes, all this is the part of defending of Ukraine.
President Trump suggested making the money a loan. You said in Munich you'd like to invite President Trump to the front lines.
If Mr. Trump, if he will come, I'm ready even to go with him to the front line.
If he was here, like we are,
yeah,
what would you tell him?
But I think his eyes, first of all, his eyes, ears.
I can hear it.
Yes, will tell him what's going on. First of all, why I said, please come. I'm happy to see all the candidates and all the people who are decision makers or can support, not to be against, just to understand what the war in Ukraine means. Who opened this war, who began it, and what's going on, what's around. What brilliant Ukraine we had. We have beautiful country, but in the war, it's another picture, another lives. I suggest him just to come. I'm ready to go with him. Maybe he wants alone, without me. It doesn't matter for me. Come, see people, just to speak them on the streets.
Because you don't know how he's going to solve it in 24 or 48 hours.
I can't understand how it can be. He can solve this problem, this tragedy with me. Yes, of course. I will explain everything, and he will explain what his thoughts. Maybe he has some ideas. I don't know, but he will see what's going on. And after that, I think he will change his mind and will understand that there is no two sides of this war. There is only one enemy, and this is the position of Putin.
A couple more critics that I want you just to address their criticism.
Okay.
You canceled the presidential election.
Cancel.
Canceled the election.
No, I didn't.
For an emergency because of the war.
No.
That's what they say. How do you respond?
Okay. First of all, nobody canceled any elections. During the war, the law said that you can't provide elections. And that's it. It is the war law. It's not me. It's not my new law. It's the law of Ukraine, which was from the very, very beginning. So nobody canceled it. No.
The critics would say that you, by trying to hold on to power, are not anxious to get to a negotiating table to end the war, because you want to keep power.
First, well, I really didn't want to talk about politics because, war is much more important than any election, so that's nonsense. Because currently I do have the largest support in modern society, so if we'll have these elections right now, then people will elect me. So it's not that I'm, trying to stay in power, because I will win the elections if the elections would be held now. So the only way we could have the election now is to change the legislation and to understand that you can build the infrastructure for inline votes. Then third, as for the negotiation table, I don't want to sit at a table with a person who only wishes to block and is a murderer.
As you know, one of Vladimir Putin's biggest political opponents, Alexei Navalny, died a few days ago in a Siberian prison, mysterious circumstances. Yevgeny Prigozhin, who briefly challenged Putin, also died mysteriously. U.S. intel believes he was likely assassinated on Putin's orders. As we sit here, we hear the artillery. Do your guys tell you how many close calls there have been to take you out? Do you know how many assassination attempts there have been on your life?
After fifth, it was not interesting for me.
After the fifth time?
Yeah, really. Yes, we had at the very beginning of invasion, they made some attempts, yes, tryings, yes, but I know a lot what they do from our intelligence, but really, for me, it's not interesting now.
When you think about Putin, you say you want to defeat him militarily. Do you think there's ever any chance of a regime change in Russia based on people there?
I think, and it will be so, I think so that it's not only militarily him. When you push, his positions are weak when you push on the battlefield. It doesn't mean that we have to deoccupy by military and all our territory from 1991. It's very difficult. You will lose a lot of people and a lot of time, much time, the long war. That's why it's more smart, of course, to decide this question diplomatically. But as much as you can, you do some parallel routes in it, щоб мати сильні позиції.
Putin is afraid only of strong, and he's, well, not accepting any weakness. So you have to be strong on the battlefield to prevent them from occupying anything. That's first thing. Second, his positions will be weaker with more and more casualties. The people in Russia will see those deaths. They will be against this war, and this wave is something that we need. We need to show informationally what is happening.
Do you trust any agreements? Because back in '94, there was an agreement. Ukraine gave thousands of nuclear weapons up after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991. And in part, that was to get a security agreement with the US, UK, and Russia. Russia obviously disregarded it. You gave up the nukes. Could you be sure of any agreement?
Я вірю.
I believe only in legal agreements, well, significant one, powerful one. I believe that for Ukraine being part of NATO is important for surviving. If Ukraine will not stand, Putin might go to other NATO countries. I believe in security guarantees on a bilateral level because it involves specific sanctions, weapons, and actions against the aggressor. And Bret, frankly speaking, I believe that only the powerful Ukrainian armed forces will be able to protect us in Europe.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.